Hey, everybody. Good morning. Oh, good morning to you. It is so good to see everyone here. Would just at least one of you tell me that you can hear me okay? I'm so nervous about the technology working. This is the first time I've actually used this platform. Oh, good. Thank you, Lisa, to be able to talk. So, yay! Happy Saturday morning. I wish I didn't have to wear my reading glasses, you all, but I do, or I won't be able to see your comments. Um, hey, Forbes family from North Carolina. Oh, hey, Lydia. I'm glad that y'all are here. Look, I've got people from everywhere. Huntsville, Alabama, and y'all, hello. Hey, Glory. It cut off half of the message. So, uh, so from Alabama, and you can see me. Okay, so someone says they're having trouble with the audio cutting out. Is anyone else having that trouble? Um, Let me turn this too. Let's see. I'm gonna turn my phone off so to make sure I'm not interrupting anything. You know, it's funny. The other day, I was watching a webinar from someone I highly admire and someone that has a lot more customers than I do, just, hundreds of thousands of followers. And she did a webinar and this is not very ladylike behavior. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But she had some real technical issues, and on the inside, I was like, "Oh, thank goodness this happens to the best." So, okay, yeah, everyone is. It looks like most people can hear, and so we're gonna just. I hope. Let's see who had said that. Robin Brown, I hope you get that fixed. I don't. I wish I could tell you what to do. I really don't. If you can, you do it on any device. So if it's not working on your desktop, you could switch over to your phone. Maybe the sound will be better. Hey, from Texas and Florida and Hiwassee, Georgia, and from Dallas and Florida and California and Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, California. I know this is early for you. Maybe it's good though. Maybe your kids are still asleep in bed and you can have a moment of quiet. I'm here from Dallas, Pennsylvania, Kansas. Audio is good. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, yay! I'm excited to be here with you. So, it's not the same being with you live. I know many of you who go to homeschool conventions around the country are heartbroken, like all of us vendors are, that we don't get to see you in person this year. And my favorite thing to do at a convention is to speak and to interact one on one with parents. And so I've done a couple of these parenting master classes on video, and it's just not the same. It's not the same as having an audience in front of you, but that's why I really wanted to just do this live so at least I have a little interaction because it helps me. It's hard to, talk and to be highly motivated when you're looking at a computer screen. So thank you for being here and thank you so much for your comments. I was able, hey, good morning from Fort Worth. I was able to be in Fort Worth for a little while, a couple weeks ago before it got canceled. So that was fun. So, you all, we're going to jump in. Oh, and also, I want to welcome all of the children that are here. You all, thank you for being here. I hope you will enjoy this too. I hope your mom or dad didn't have to drag you here too much and that they're giving you a special breakfast because you're here this morning. So, I'm here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We've got a beautiful Saturday. The sun is out. You all, right now, I want all of you to take a deep breath. I do. Ready? I want you to just for this 1 hour to put aside all of your worries. I want you to just put aside all of your concerns that are going on right now, big and small. I want you to just pretend with me that everything is good in the world. Actually, most things are good in the world. But I want you to just put out of your mind everything that's going on around us. And I want you to just be here in this moment where you're not thinking about one other thing except how can you and I be better ladies and gentlemen? And how can we walk away from this morning motivated and excited to be a better version of ourselves? Now, whether you're a mother or a father, or whether you're a daughter or a son that is here at this moment, whether you're 6 year old or 18 years old or 45 years old, you all of us can improve. And it's when we improve and it's in the striving to become better, that's the source of happiness. That's what's exciting. That's the hope of tomorrow. And so, right now, I just want you to be here. Put those cell phones away, no texting, just be here. And I think if you do those things, you'll be really glad that you came. So, the premise of this workshop is if we're going to raise ladies, well, it helps a lot if our children can see a living example of a lady in the home. And not just our daughters, you all. Our sons need to see that as well. And just like in 2 weeks, when I do our second master class, that's going to be becoming a gentleman and raising boys to be gentlemen, which I hope you get your husbands to attend and your sons to attend. You're going to see that our daughters need to see gentlemen in the home, our sons need to see ladies in the home, and of course, they both need to see each other. We can teach, but seeing it is what changes hearts. So today, this morning, we're just going to go through as many skills as we can get through in an hour, and we're going to talk about what we can do and what it looks like to be a lady. Most of these skills we talk about, if not all of them, are very applicable to the gentleman sex as well. So, dads, don't tune out, but listen up too, because all of this affects us individually. So, let's get started, okay? So, one of the first skills that I like to talk about when we talk about being a lady is what does it mean to be graceful? Now, right now, I'm actually talking about the physical act of being graceful, meaning being elegant, having good posture. Why does it matter? Back a long time ago, and kids, you maybe haven't seen this. We used to have these pictures in magazines, or there used to be these classes where we would practice walking around a room with a couple of books on our head. And the way that we walked, we had to make sure and not let the books fall off of our head. And that's what would help us to learn what it meant to have good posture. Why does it matter what our posture is like? Well, because our posture, the way we carry ourselves, sends a message to the people around us about how we feel about ourselves, but also how we feel about those we're with and where we are. Let me remind you what the definition of etiquette is. Etiquette is helping those around us to feel valued and to feel comfortable. And so when we have good posture, it's about our body language. For instance, do we all have days that we feel like this? Yes, you may be feeling like that today. But here's the thing. Does the whole world need to know that you're having a day like this? You see, every day, you all, we have an opportunity. When we wake up in the morning, we have a choice to make. We are either going to be the bearers of light or the bearers of darkness. There's really only two choices. And you've got to ask yourself, when I interact with others, if someone runs into me that day, or if I have a phone conversation with someone, when they walk away from interacting with me, Do they walk away a little higher, a little lighter, a little happier? Or do they walk away a little more down, a little more depressed, a little more gloomy? And that has everything to do with us, with our body language, with our energy level. For instance, right now, do you think I'm happy? What do you think? Do you think I can fake it? I can fake it for a little while. But you all, you can see happiness and joy in people's eyes. Here, let me take my glasses off so you can see. How do you know that I'm happy? How do you know that I'm a happy person? Is it just because I have a smile on my face? No, that helps a lot, but it's in how we interact. It's our body language, it's our excitement level. We're the most blessed people on the face of this earth. First of all, we get to live in the most beautiful and amazing country on this earth. We get to live in America. We are free. We're free to worship and to think and to become anything that we want. It's not a perfect country, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. This is my country. We get to homeschool. We get to educate our children however we choose to educate them for the most part. We get to teach our children about God. We get to teach them that Jesus Christ is their Savior. We're free to do that. We're free to help our children have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You all were the most blessed people on the planet. We have so many things to be grateful for. Our lives are not perfect, and sometimes they're very difficult, but we must find joy. And we've got to decide whether we're going to be a light to others. All it takes is turning on the news and being able to see there are people in a lot worse conditions than we are. And so a lady uses her body language, and her posture to send a message to those that she's with, a message of light and hope and joy. And that's our job as ladies. All right. If I could get you to walk away with any principle today that I think would be the most impactful in your life, it would be this one. And that is that a lady gives grace to others. What does that mean? Well, what I believe it means, or at least one thing I think it means, is it means that we give people, other people, the benefit of a doubt. Now, what does that mean, kids? It means that we assume the best in others and we doubt the bad. Let me give you an example. It means that if I'm in a conversation with someone and all of a sudden they say something to me that sounded a little rude, maybe it sounded a little condescending, and in my mind, I'm tempted to think, well, that was pretty rude, or I can't believe she just said that. That's the temptation that starts going on in my mind. But if I'm a true lady with strength and power, then I'm not going to think that. This is what I'm going to think instead. Oh, I'm sure she didn't mean for that to come out that way. Oh, she may just be having a bad day. I don't really know what all is going on in her personal life, and I just need to be kind and just love her. That's what we do as ladies and gentlemen. It means that we give people some grace. Right now, you all, with the stress that's going on in our world, people are uptight. In fact, I've been just the last week or two, every morning I sit in my dining room and I have this huge window and I can see people walking up and down the street. And just like in your neighborhoods, I have never, since I've lived here for 26 years, seen So many people walking up and down the street every morning, families, moms and dads with all their children in tow, taking a walk, trying to get out of the house. And it's been a beautiful thing to see. Well, this morning, when I was sitting there drinking my peppermint tea, I looked out and I saw this little family. They've got 5 kids. And I see the mom and dad walking, and it kind of looked like they might be having a more aggressive conversation, and the kids are walking behind them. But, I just, oh well, just dismissed it. Anyway, they walked. Well, then they came back. And by the time they came back in front of my house, they were having a really heated conversation. Arms were flaring and angry faces. And I just said a prayer for them right there because I get it. We're all a little uptight. And we got to give each other some grace, especially when we know things are difficult. It doesn't mean we give a license to each other to be rude and to be unkind. But it does mean that when someone is a little grouchy, is a little unkind, that we just focus on all the good things that they are. And we remember the good things that they are. And we just give them some grace and say they must be just really uptight right now. Maybe they're really afraid. And that's what ladies and gentlemen do. We give grace to each other. Okay, let's go on. By the way, you all can ask me a question anytime along the way or make a comment. I will do my best to look. Sometimes I get in my speaking mode and all of a sudden I realize I haven't read some comments, but I'd love to hear any comments that you might have. Oops, yes. And thank you for saying amen. And let me get my little Kleenex. I'm sorry. So, okay. So, oh, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for saying that. So, another skill, and you all, I know I'm speaking to the choir here. Ladies and gentlemen have a sense of doing what's right, and I know that you do. So, what I just would add to this is that you and I, as parents, are trying to raise a generation of children who become adults who are doers of the word, who will stand up for truth and for righteousness. Now, I don't mean that we stand on a pedestal and kind of condemn the world around us and stand in judgment of the world. But whenever we feel prompted, we need to stand up. Let me give you an example. One time when my kids were little, I have 3 boys. Y'all, they're so old. They're 33, 31, and 23. Ah, I just can't believe it. That's when you feel old. But one time when my 3 little boys were little, we were in the grocery store checkout line. And I was standing there, waiting to pay for my groceries. And all of a sudden, I look down, and there's that one particular magazine that we all hate, or I don't see it really anymore, but it used to always be on the magazine shelves. You'll probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it just so happened that particular month was a very explicit picture. So, kids, it was an inappropriate picture. Let's just say that. And I didn't want my boys to see it. And so I did what all of us parents would do. I kind of used my body and kind of stood between the magazine rack and my children, and I focused their attention on the other side of the aisle. But as I was standing there, I kind of started getting just angry about it. I was like, this is crazy. I can't even buy food for my family without, them being exposed to something that I don't want my kids exposed to. And so um, I finally said, you know what, I'm going to talk to the manager. So I ended up going over and saying, can I speak to your manager? And la, 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 la. So we went over to this little corner, and this nice young man came out. And there I am, this mom with her 3 kids. And I expressed to this manager what my problem was. And he was very polite, and he stood there and listened to me. And after I was done with my little lecture, He said, ma'am, look, I'm a dad. I agree with you 100%. He says, the thing is, though, there's nothing I can do about it. He said, those magazines have contracts, and each of those magazines pay for a particular spot in the aisle. And those are contracts that, I don't have any power over. And so I listened to him and heard his dilemma. And after he was done, I said, you know what, sir, I hear you. And I realize that you're not the owner of the whole grocery store chain. I said, but that picture should not be on your aisles, not when there's children in this store. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're right. They're coming down. And I stood there and I watched that man go from aisle to aisle and pick up those magazines. And he went and put them back in his office. Now, in the meantime, my boys are going, Mom, what magazine? And I'm like, none ya, don't worry about it. And maybe probably the magazines were up the next day and maybe he got in trouble for taking them down. I don't know. Here's what I do know, parents, and that is your kids need to see you stand up sometimes. Because how are they going to learn how you do it? How do you stand up and be respectful and kind, but yet stand up for what's right and for truth? I mean, if not us, who? And if not our kids, then who? And so I just would encourage all of us to look for opportunities, wait to be prompted by the Spirit to stand up and allow your children to see that you don't just talk a good game, but you do it when you feel the need. And so that's what being a lady and a gentleman's all about. You all, I'm sorry. I know my picture is covering up a few words. I should have fixed that. Here, I'll show you the whole thing for a quick second. Not that you're going to need all that, but anyway, so sorry about that. I should have made my slides have a little square in the top corner. But a lady is kind. Now, I know you know that, but you all, this idea of being kind kind of fascinates me. I guess that's why I'm in the etiquette business. Because think about this for a second. What parent on this entire planet doesn't want their kids to be kind? I mean, is there one? Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Donnie. I mean, all of us, the whole planet, we want our kids to be kind. So if you have all of these millions of parents who want their kids to be kind, why are we living in a less kind society in a lot of ways? Like, what's happening? And what I believe is that our society has stopped being purposeful in teaching the skills of kindness. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm teaching the skills of kindness. And what happens is, as parents, I mean, I do this too, I did this too, and that's what kind of changed my whole thought process. Is back 15 years ago when I was a mom, and I wish I had realized this when my kids were even younger. It would have made a difference. As I was looking at my kids, and I mean, they were good kids, and of course I wanted my kids to be kind, but I would see them do things more often than I wanted, and I just didn't like it. And I was like, what's wrong? And I felt like I was always correcting my kids, like going, honey, that's not polite. And honey, you can't say that. And honey, did you seriously just do that? And I was doing that a lot. And I felt like it was starting to be negative with my kids. And that's when, y'all, I had this light bulb moment. And so one day, me and my son Sawyer, who I was homeschooling, he's my youngest, we were studying the life of George Washington. And if you've never read him, you need to. But there's this list called George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior. We actually include it in one of our bundles because it changed my life so much. But basically, it's this 110 chivalry skills that George Washington wrote out when he was about 13, 14 years old. And we have that list of skills in the Smithsonian. Well, when we started reading these skills, my heart was just so touched, like they were beautiful. And I started thinking, goodness, if I could have my kids memorize one skill a week, kind of like how we have them memorize one scripture a week or whatever, maybe it would kind of come to them and when they needed it. And all of a sudden I started realizing that I just wasn't purposeful enough in teaching, that I was always teaching kindness in a correction instead of in front. And so y'all, that's what we're talking about. So how do you teach to be kind? Well, kindness requires some skills like bearing one another's burdens. What does that mean? Well, it means that when you cry, I cry. When you're sad, I'm sad. Because you know how when you and I start going through something that's really difficult, we don't always need someone else to tell us how to fix it or give us advice. In fact, sometimes we don't really want advice. But it sure feels good when someone says, Monica, I am so sorry that you're going through that. It makes me so sad that you're having to face that trial. That feels good. One time years ago, I there was this friend of my son. You know how we're friends with our kids' friends' parents, not sometimes not on a deep level, but just through association. And that's kind of what this relationship was. My son had this little girl in his kindergarten class, and because he started out in public school, and they just were the best of friends, and she used to come over and play a lot. And so me and her mother, of course, became friends. Well, one day I learned that the my son's friend's dad passed away, and I had never met him, and I wasn't super close with these parents. But once again, my son was friends with their child, and the way that he passed away was a very, just a way that is very hard to talk about, and people don't know what to do in these kinds of situations. And so I just was just devastated with sadness for my son's friend and just their family, and it just was so sad. And anyway, so I sat there and I wanted to call the mother, but then I didn't want to, because I didn't know what to say. And I went back and forth and back and forth. And finally, thank goodness, the Lord just, I felt was prompting me that I needed to call. And so finally, I said a prayer and said, Lord, please help me to know what to say. I'm so scared of what to say. And so I picked up the phone and called. And y'all, I was so relieved when it was her voicemail because I really didn't want to talk to her because I was scared to. But her voicemail came on and I just said something like, I'm so, so sorry. And, my heart is broken and I love you and we love you. And, and I hung up. And the thing is that about a month or two later, I ran into this mom in the grocery store. We hadn't had a lot of contact since the funeral. And I ran into her in the grocery store and she came up to me and gave me a big hug. And she said, Monica, I just want to thank you so much. I'm sorry that I never have responded to your phone call you made that day. But when I heard your voice and when I heard your message, it just comforted me so much. And, during that first week of his passing, my phone didn't ring. And she said, I just was so isolated and alone that week. And right when she said that to me, you all, my heart just fell because I realized how close I had come to not calling because I was afraid. I was afraid for myself, which was kind of a selfish fear that was keeping me from reaching out to someone. And I realized why other people hadn't called because they felt the same way I did, where I just was afraid. And that was such a lesson for me. And so now my motto in any kind of situation that's uncomfortable is Monica, just do it. Just make the call. Just I don't care how scared you are or how scared you are, how uncomfortable you are. You got to think about others more than yourself. And if I'm uncomfortable, too bad, too sad, just do it. And that's my philosophy now. And I try to act on that. It's still hard sometimes. We have to teach these principles to our children. What the one you can't see there, here I'll turn it over again, is we encourage others to be their best selves. And I love it when my friends help me to be the best version of myself. We look past appearances into the heart of people. I shared this not too long ago on one of my Facebook Lives, so it might be a repeat story for some of you. Um, but I'll share this because it's a good example of this principle. One time I was headed into a convention. Well, I had a convention. I was headed there early one morning and I stopped at a little market to get me a drink. And so I pulled in and got out of my car and headed into this market. And when I started to walk into the market, there was this woman and she looked like maybe she would be homeless. She looked pretty rough. She even looked like maybe she was inebriated. You can explain that to your kids. But she had the door of the market open and she was screaming at someone inside the market. And I just kind of was like, oh, excuse me. And I went past her and went in there. The guy behind the counter looked out to her and he was like, get out of here, get off this property. And I kind of didn't blame him because, it was his store and place of business. And anyway, I got my drink, got back in my car. When I went to start my engine, I looked up and there was that woman. And she kind of had propped herself up against the wall of the market. And I just was looking at her because it was a little intriguing. And as I'm looking at her, all of a sudden, the only way I can describe it is I was just overcome with this feeling of love for her. And the thought that ran through my mind in this moment was, Monica, I love her. And it hurts me to see one of my daughters in this condition. Now, you all, I believe that was the Lord's voice in my mind. They weren't my thoughts. It wasn't my love that I had for her. I believe God was allowing me to feel a portion of His love that He had for that woman, His daughter. And I believe that the Lord was reminding me that I needed to be careful how I looked at others. And I needed to see others, I try to see others the way God sees all of us. He loves us. He loves all of His children. And He has asked that we love all of His children. And it was a really special moment for me. And I must admit, it has changed the way I see people. I'm sorry, Jill, to my knowledge, there's not going to be a replay. We are recording this, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. So I'm sorry I don't have a perfect answer. I will send out an email to all of you. Sorry about my nose, y'all. I will send out an email to all of you after this webinar with information if you can watch it later, and any other information. So I'm sorry I don't have a perfect answer right now. And then finally on this screen it says a lady puts others above self. And all I can tell you parents, this is a hard one because we all struggle with this, right? We all struggle with how do we put others first? And so sometimes when you're a parent, what I believe helps, you got to talk about it. Like these are things you must talk about and bring it to your children's attention. So maybe you're going to wake up one day and say, hey kids, today I want you to find a way to put your brother first. And your daughter's going to be like, what? What do you mean? And you're going to say, well, I don't know. Maybe you're going to go make his bed before he has time to make it. Or maybe you're going to let him have the biggest piece of cake for lunch. I don't know. But when I tuck you into your bed tonight, I want you to tell me what you did to put your brother first. You see, parents, as a parent, we have to create opportunities for our children to see what it feels like to bear one another's burdens, to see what it feels like to put others first. Because it's not until you do those things that you realize how amazing and beautiful those things are, and that it's the source of our own happiness. And so, as parents, we're constantly trying to create an opportunity for those things. Okay, let's keep going. So, yeah, let's talk about this one. Let's go ahead and get it over with. So, a lady avoids gossip. You know, you all, the premise of this workshop is we're talking about how to raise a true lady, but to how to raise girls who become women with strength and integrity. And how is strength related to being a lady? How is grit related to being a lady? Because if you don't feel good about who you are as a person, it limits your ability to influence others. It limits your ability to achieve great things. Now, it doesn't mean that we think we're perfect. It doesn't mean that I think I'm perfect. Trust me, I know all of my weaknesses, and there's plenty. But when I know that I am trying to be a good person. I am trying to please God. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm trying. And when I make a mistake, I try, hopefully, and acknowledge it and repent, apologize, make it right. When we live a life where we are true to what we believe to be good, it helps us to feel at peace with who we are and at peace with our relationship with God. That is the essence of power. That's the essence of strength. But when we knowingly do things like gossiping, when we know deep down it's wrong, you know how when you've engaged in gossiping, you walk away and you feel a little yucky inside? That's because we're doing something that we know is wrong, but we decide to do it anyway. So years ago, I think it's been about 15 years now, one of my college roommates who I dearly love, her name is Karen, calls me up and informs me that her little sister Amy had suddenly passed away. Now, I had never met Amy, but at the time, Amy was, I think she was 22 years old, maybe 23 years old. She was 8 months pregnant. It was very sad. They were actually able to save her little baby. But she had a brain aneurysm just out of the blue, and it was a very sad event. So I'm sorry to tell you something sad. Anyway, I get on a plane, fly to Arizona, where this memorial service was taking place. And there was so many people, and Amy was so young, so all of her high school friends and college friends were all there. And it was a tremendous event. But what I remember is about midway through this memorial service, about five or six, I might not have that memory perfect in my mind, but about five or six of her friends get up in front of the sanctuary, and they had a little microphone, and they passed this microphone between them. And what I remember is that when one of them started talking about this character of Amy, this attribute of Amy, they kind of all got on this topic. And basically, what they said was that Amy was someone that they had never once, not once, ever heard Amy make a negative comment about another person. Ever. They said, in fact, if you started to try to share some news about somebody, that Amy would be like, oh, hold on, hold on. Are you going to tell me something good about her? Because if not, I don't want to know. And as I sat there and heard them talk about Amy in this way, y'all, the cloud of guilt started darkening over my head. I all of a sudden just felt so ashamed because I knew that if I died that day, my friends and my family, my children, could not say that about me. And I just was all of a sudden very embarrassed and ashamed of my behavior. Here's the etiquette rule. If what you're about to say to someone else is going to cause that person to think a little less of who you're talking about, don't say it. It's wrong. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just wrong to share with others information about other people that would cause them to think less of that person. Now, you all, we're not talking about a safety issue. If there's a safety issue, that is different. But 99% of the time when we do this, it's not about safety. It's kind of like, imagine that you and I every day have a light and we decide, it's a spotlight, and we decide where we're going to shine our spotlight, what we're going to shine it on. When you decide to share some news that's not very flattering about someone else, like maybe you're going to shine it on me, and you're going to say to your friend, did you know that I heard that Monica Irvine did this 20 years ago? Or did you know what Monica Irvine said yesterday? Can you believe she said that? When we do that, what we're really telling our friend is this. Now, of course, I would never do such a thing because I'm better than Monica. I mean, oh goodness, I would never make such a mistake. Do you see how ugly it is? We do it to build ourselves up. We do it to make us feel better about ourselves and to try to make other people feel better about us. You all, when I went home from that funeral, I had to ask some difficult questions. And the question mainly was, Monica, why do you have to tear someone else down in order to feel good about yourself? What's wrong here? What's wrong in my heart that I need to fix so that it's not necessary for me to point out other people's faults so I can feel better about who I am? Do you understand what I'm saying? I had to go home and apologize to my kids and apologize to some friends. And here's what was really embarrassing. When I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, I was going to do my best not to do that anymore, I realized that I had a couple of friends that we really didn't have anything to talk about anymore. And that's when I realized that we had built a relationship around that kind of conversation. A lady does not gossip. Thanks, you all. Thank you for your comments. A true lady does not conform. We don't bend. We don't listen to or do or say or change what we do because of others. Kids, girls, young women, listen to me. You do not change your behavior because of others. You're who you are, and you know what you believe. You know what's right. Your parents have been teaching you since you were born. Your happiness in life right now at your age is going to depend on whether or not you live according to what you believe. Don't you change unless it's for the better. A true friend people who care and love you would not ask you to do something that goes against what you know is right. Someone who loves you would not do that. A lady keeps her commitments. Oh, this is a hard one, y'all. I pray for this a lot because I feel like I have too many things going on, and sometimes I do overcommit to things. And so I'm always praying and saying, Heavenly Father, please help me to keep my commitments. Please help me to keep my word that I've made to others. And so now I have so many alarms on my phone because if I'm not alarmed, I'll forget things. And so my phone's always beeping at me. My husband's like, what is it beeping about now? Oh, I got to call this person. I got to send this person a recipe. I got to go do a webinar. And so we've got to be careful. You know, one thing that I'm guilty of, and I know we all are, but is that we've got to make sure that we don't overcommit. It's a constant balancing act. Here's what I know is if we have allowed ourselves, and we do it, if we have allowed ourselves to become so busy that we don't have time for the most important things, then you all were too busy. If we're so busy that we don't have time to get up and read our scriptures and pray with individually and with our family, if we don't have time to have a date night with our spouse and to have some family fun time, then we've allowed ourselves to be too busy. Y'all, I believe this is one of the greatest gifts that will come from this pandemic. Hopefully, the entire world has been humbled. And now it's going to be everyone's individual decision about whether we're going to take this time to reassess how we're doing in our own personal lives and in our family with doing the most important things. The Lord is giving us this incredible opportunity to reevaluate our priorities in life. You know, Satan doesn't have to get us to go out and commit a bunch of grievous sins to get us off the path. He just has to get us too busy to pray each morning, and that works well too. He has to get us too busy to think that we don't have time to sit down with our family and read the Word of God together. That works great too. So take this opportunity that's been given to us to reassess what is the most important. And if we do that, we will come out on the other side, and we will. This pandemic will end, you all. It will. But the question is, who are we going to be on the other side of it? Are we going to be better for it or not? And there is no one on this earth that will make that decision except you and I. I love it, Melissa. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lavina. You all, thank you, Kaylin. Thank you. A true lady admits her flaws. No, this doesn't mean that we go around just telling everyone all the bad things that we do. But it does mean that we admit it. Y'all, this is hard. I guess my question is to each of us is, and now when I ask you this, don't you be thinking about your spouse. Don't you be sitting there going, boy, I wish my spouse could have heard this. I want you to think about you, because this is all this is about. We don't have control over really anyone except ourselves, not our kids. We don't. We have influence on them, but not control. We have influence on our spouse, a little bit, but not control. But we have control with God's help over us. So the question is, have you said out loud lately that you were wrong? When's the last time that the words "I'm sorry" left your lips? Recently? If not, if you haven't said "I'm sorry" in the past week, there's a 100% chance that you missed an opportunity. So I'll tell you about a really embarrassing, terrible thing that I did once that I had to really gain some courage to apologize for. Why am I sharing this with you? I don't know. But so one time I used to play a lot of tennis. And I was on these competitive teams, and so I was a member of this little club. And because I was a member of the club, I got to get discounts at the club store. Anyway, so I was out playing tennis with this girl one day, and I wasn't really good friends with her. I mean, we knew each other and played some tennis together, but I wouldn't say she was a close friend. But anyway, after the match, she came up to me and she said, "Hey, Monica, you're a member of this club, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah." She said, "Well, can we run up to the club store and let me get some outfits and I'll use your club discount?" Well, y'all, the second she said that, kids, this is called peer pressure. The second she said that, I got this little knot in my stomach because I knew what the policy was. The policy was the club discount was only for the member. It wasn't to buy clothes for anyone else. It was for your clothes as the member. But before I could even do anything, I said, "Sure." And then that's when that knot in my stomach started tightening. You know where that knot comes from, right? Because I just said something that I knew was wrong. And I didn't have the courage in that moment to say, "Oh, I would love to, but I'm sorry, it's only to be used for club members." That would have been so easy, right? And then it would have been over. And maybe she would have got her feathers a little ruffled. Maybe would have even got mad at me. I would have taken that over the next 2 weeks of my life. Oh, if I would have done that, but I didn't. So there we go, walk into this little store, and I just the knot, just was growing. And we get up to the store and she starts shopping. And y'all, I just already was sick inside about it. But I didn't know what to do at this point because I was weak. And so she doesn't just buy one outfit, y'all. She probably bought, I don't remember. She had a whole stack of clothes, like 5 or 6 outfits. And she's just bouncing, and it's a little store. So the lady up there at the counter saw that this girl was shopping, and she would bring them over and just pile them in my arm. And then after she's done shopping, she looks at me, she goes, "Okay, I'll wait outside and I'll pay you when you come out." So there I go up to the counter with my stack of clothes, like a sheep going to the slaughter. And I lay them down on the counter. And what do you think the first question that the lady asked me? "So, Mrs. Irvin, are these for you?" Second opportunity to do the right thing. Yes. You all, at that time, I was a young mother. I had these 3 little kids, and I would teach them and talk to them about peer pressure, talk to them about being honest in all things. And there I was. I had lied, I had been deceptive, and I was sick. So for 2 weeks after that incident, it gnawed at me. You all know what it's like, don't you, when you're carrying around the burden of sin? It's a weight. Like you feel it. You feel it on your back. It physically weighs you down. And the next day, right after it happened, I knew what I had to do, that the only way I was going to get this weight off of me was I had to go confess and I had to make this right, as humiliated and embarrassed as I was. And guess what? I went in the next day to do it. And I just was so embarrassed. And I went in and asked to speak to the girl that had been there the day before. And you know what they told me? She was on a 2-week vacation. And then I knew the Lord was just punishing me. And y'all, for 2 weeks, I was miserable. Here's what's interesting about sin is that experience. I mean, I don't want to be dishonest anymore. Like, I was done with that. I'm done with not being brave enough to just be truthful and to just, even if I lose friends or if I ruffle someone's feather, I don't care. It's better than the Lord being upset with me. And after 2 weeks, I did go in and I confessed to her and I apologized and I paid the difference in the discount out of my own money. But here's the deal, was my reputation with her hurt? It was. And there was really nothing I could do about that. I had to live with the consequences of my choices. The reason I guess I wanted to share that with you is we've all really made some mistakes. Big ones and small ones. Doesn't matter. What matters is that we admit them and we make it right and we apologize and we repent if necessary. And every time we do that, we become stronger and more determined that I'm going to do what's right regardless of the consequence. And a lady is brave and has the courage to do what's right regardless of the consequence. Hey, Elizabeth, thank you. I'm glad that you came. And Lisa, thank you. You all, I can't believe it's 10:56. This is supposed to be just 1 hour, and I'm going to skip a couple of slides because I'm sorry. I just talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm going to look and just leave with you some of the most important things, but I'm going to give you some information on how to find out more about more of these skills. Um, Hold on. We've kind of already talked a little bit about being, oh, so good, Becky, I don't mind. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm going over. It won't be over much, maybe 10 minutes. Y'all can leave if you need to. I appreciate you being here. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. So a woman is trustworthy. We already talked about that a little bit. The only thing I want to say and add to this slide is that she doesn't reveal confidences. And what I mean by that, you all, is do you all have people in your life that, you would just share anything with? You know it's safe. But then there are other people that you're very cautious about what to share. And so the question is, well, which one are you? Like if I were to ask your sister, your friends about can they trust you with giving you information? And so I just want us to be more thoughtful and careful whenever someone trusts you enough to confide in you. Like maybe they had an argument with their spouse, or maybe they've got a wayward child. Those are very sensitive, very private moments. Um, and so be careful. We are not supposed to share that kind of information with others unless we've been given permission to share. Like even our spouse, like I have developed relationships with other women that are 40-year-old relationships. And those relationships, because I trust those women, I do share things with them that I wouldn't share with anyone else on this earth. But I don't have that same relationship with their spouse or with their sister. And so I don't expect them to share what I've shared with them with the other people that they're close to in their life. And so I just want you to be careful when someone confides in you to protect, thank you, Betsy, to protect what you've been given. So, okay, let's talk about this one really quickly. So she avoids being the center of attention. A lady does. So what does this mean and what is this about? Well, so here's the thing. If we're true ladies, then our focus is supposed to be on those around us, not ourselves. So we don't want a neon sign above our head that's telling everyone, look at me, look at me. And so we try not to have extreme volume and clothes and hair and makeup and laugh. That also has to do with our dress. Um, and oh, I tell you what, you all, so sorry to interrupt. Yes, you all, I tell you what, I promise. I'm going to send you an email after this webinar, and it will have you can download the slides of this workshop along with there'll be little notes. And so I will give you a link to this workshop. Okay, so if you have to leave, I will send all of this to you. Okay. Okay. So, oh, that's scary that I'm on an intercom, Deanna. But so a lot of times I've been asked to I go into churches and I speak to a lot of youth groups and different things. And y'all, it doesn't matter what denomination it is. It doesn't matter what group of teenagers it is. If I start talking about the word modesty, you better bet those eyes start rolling. But what I've learned is when I approach this topic through the eyes of etiquette, that it's different because here's the etiquette rule. I never dress or behave in a way, if I'm a lady, that sends a message to others that I want all of the attention on me. Well, most people don't want to, most people don't want others to think that we're trying to soak in all the attention. And so that's a little different. One time, I do think we need to be careful though. One time in one of my workshops at a convention, I had a lady raise her hand and she said, "Well, Monica, let me ask you this question." She said, "So we have this situation at our church. There's this lady. She's a young woman, like 21, 22 years old, and she happens to be the minister's daughter. And she dresses very provocatively, inappropriately for church or for anything, but she dresses that way at church. And me and some of the other ladies have been talking about it because we're not really sure what to do because, she is supposed to be a role model for all of the girls in our church and it's the minister's daughter. And so do we go to her and talk to her about it? Do we go to her dad, the minister, and talk to him about it? What are we supposed to do? And so you may be thinking, so what would you do? And what's your thoughts about that? Let me tell you what my thoughts were and are about those kind of situations. You all, I want you to remember something. Our ability to influence others is always limited unless the people that we're talking to knows that we love them. And even then, it's kind of tricky. When I see someone that maybe I don't agree with how they're dressed, I hope and what I want to think is she must not know who she is. She must not know whose she is. Because if she truly knew her divine worth, if she knew that she truly was a daughter of God and that her value is invaluable, that her value is set, that there is nothing she can do or not do to change her value. Our value, you all, is set. It's been set by God. It's of infinite worth. And someone who dresses in a way that is trying to draw a lot of attention, and it's actually a way to draw love from others, is someone I believe that on the inside is not feeling valued and loved. And so they're trying to get value from outside sources, from eyes, from other people. When the true source of our value comes from God, that's somebody I want to get to know. That's somebody that I want to love on and bring them into my circle. So over time, they can feel how loved they are. I wish that's how we thought, especially as Christians. I wish we would stop looking at people and going, "Can you believe what she has on? Did you see how many tattoos he had? Did you see all those piercings or this or that?" I wish we would stop that. And I wish we would try to see each other through God's eyes because He loves them as much as He loves you. And He wants them to come home to Him just like He wants you to come home. And we just need to love each other. Yes, I'm going to teach my children why I believe we should dress a certain way. And yes, I'm going to teach them what I think is appropriate and not appropriate that we do with our body. But I'm in charge of me and you're in charge of you. And for the rest of us and each other, we're just supposed to love each other, you all, and stop looking with judgmental eyes. Okay, a lady strives not to complain. Oh, it's hard not to complain. We all have times where we have to confide in people like, I'm having a bad day. Can I share something with you? That's not complaining. What complaining is that's not appropriate is when we vomit at the mouth. That's what I like to call it. And you may have been vomiting a lot lately. You all, stop it. Stop it. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help us, you, or anyone. You know, when people just, oh, I hate this. I'm so bored. I can't go out. I hate this. What's going on? I hate the weather. I hate the rain. We're just, that light that we want to be to others is becoming darker. So it doesn't help. You might think it makes you feel better. It doesn't. It actually makes you feel worse. We are bearers of light. And that's what ladies and gentlemen do. Okay, I'm really going to wrap it up because I need to. And so I'm going to skip these last couple slides. You're going to just be mad at me. I'm going to give you one more though. I know it. I'm going to give you this one. And that is, y'all, it's rude to be late. Did you know that? Ladies and gentlemen are not late. Here's the thing. Each of us can be late at one time or another, but if you have a reputation of being late, y'all, it's rude. It means that we're not considerate of other people's time. And so we need to work on that. And remember, we're trying to prepare our children to be successful. And if they come from a home where their parents have always and continuously not kept their time commitments, your kids are not going to keep their time commitments. And then they're going to try to come work for someone like me, and they're going to get fired for being late. That's right. And so we're trying to equip our children to be successful. And so we want to be on time. You all, let me give you some information before you all leave me. And this is the last slide. And so I wanted to show you. So the book that I'm teaching you from today is called Raising a Generation of Ladies and Gentlemen. So we've gone over, what do you say, maybe 10, 12 skills today. This book has 52 skills, and it is a 52-week study for you to do on your own, mom, but even better for you to do with your spouse. It's a couple study. And in this email that I'm going to send you after the webinar, I'll give you a link to this product. So if you did want to dive deeper into some of the things we talked about today, we've got this resource for you. Also, if you didn't know it, I have a podcast. It's called Parent Wise with Monica Irvine. And it's an episode is released every Thursday. So I'd love for you to join us. If you have not connected with us on Facebook or Instagram, love for you to do that. You all, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I want you to have the best Saturday. I'd love for you to say bye to me. If you have any questions, feel free to pop a question. I'm still here for those of you that want to have a question. Oh, thank you, Blythe and Lillian. Thank you for your prayers. You are so welcome. Abra, living good. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you, you all. Um, oh, thank you. I'm so glad the Anderson family and the Rawdon family. Oh, I see all of you. It's coming pretty fast. The Forbes family. Thank you. I'm so glad you all got up early to be here. I just appreciate it so much. You all, we are going to have these every 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, you're going to see another one. We're going to have one for the daddies. It's going to be raising boys to be gentlemen. So I hope you encourage your husbands to attend that one. You'll see some information about that on our social media next week. Oh, thank you, Nick and Danielle and the Hanson family. Thanks, you all. Becky Blair. Oh, yes, every 2 weeks. Yes. Thank you, Jana. Love it. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry, you all. It's going a little faster. I will read every single comment, I promise. And please look for an email after this. Y'all, happy Saturday. I love you all. Bye. Bye, you guys. Bye. Bye, Jennifer Anderson. Oh, this is the Olivers. Hi there. Oh, I'm so glad you're 3 girls and 2 boys. Yay. Thanks, Elizabeth Dafflin. Oh, good. I'm glad your husband will attend. Thank you, Glory. Thank you, Nick and Danielle. Thanks, you all. Bye. Oh, you're so welcome. The Sorison family. Oh, thank you, the Riley family. I'm glad you love the Etiquette Factory. Yvonne, thank you. Oh, I hope we can still come to that California homeschool convention. We're all going to cross our fingers that we're allowed to do that, y'all. Melissa, thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. Lisa, thank you so much. Jackie and Lisa, bye. Yes, Melissa, I am scheduled to be at the Florida convention. However, I'm not speaking there. I had to do one of those contracts. I'm a special speaker for Great Homeschool Conventions, so I wasn't allowed to speak at FPEA this year. Ugh, I don't like all those funny rules that those conventions do. But I will be there, so please come by my booth and see me. Um, so good, thank you. Please come see me at the Florida convention. Bye, y'all. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Faircloth, I appreciate that. All right. Bye, y'all.